2:17 a.m. Hannah Miller pressed her spine against the cold bathroom tiles, each breath a blade twisting between her ribs. Blood traced the grout lines beneath her trembling fingers. Through the door, she heard his footsteps pause, then the jingle of car keys, then silence. He would be back. He always came back. Her phone screen blurred through tears as she typed the only words left inside her. He broke my ribs. I can't breathe. Please help me. She hit send to her sister. But her sister never received that message. 30 miles away, Wade Hollister sat in darkness, his 5-year-old daughter finally asleep on his chest, after crying for a mother who would never come home. A stranger's desperate plea glowed on his screen. Wrong number. Not his problem. Not his business. His thumb hovered over delete. But something in those words wouldn't let him go. Something old. Something he had tried to bury for 10 years. He typed back 3 words that would shatter 2 lives and rebuild them from the wreckage. I'm on my way. The penthouse smelled like success. Italian leather, aged whiskey, fresh lilies, arranged by a florist who came every Tuesday. Hannah had learned to notice these details in the 3 years since she moved in with Ryan Prescott. She had learned to notice everything. The way his jaw tightened when dinner wasn't ready. The specific click of his briefcase that meant a bad day in court. The cologne he wore when he wanted something from her, and the silence he wrapped around himself when she had failed to give it. Tonight, she had noticed the way his eyes tracked her across the living room as she poured wine for his colleagues. She had noticed the slight tremor in her own hands. She had noticed the exact moment the glass slipped, red wine blooming across the white fabric of his custom Italian suit, like a wound opening. His colleagues laughed nervously. Ryan smiled. That smile she knew too well. The one that meant later. The one that meant wait until they leave. He excused himself to change, charming as ever, and Hannah spent the next hour performing the role of the perfect hostess, while her stomach turned to ice. She refilled glasses. She laughed at jokes. She pretended not to see the way Ryan watched her from across the room, patient as a predator who already knew his prey couldn't run. When the last guest left, the penthouse fell silent. Hannah stood by the window, looking out at the city lights 30 floors below. She heard him approach. She didn't turn around. You know what that suit cost? His voice was calm, almost tender. That was the worst part. Ryan Prescott never raised his voice. He didn't need to. He was a criminal defense attorney, one of the best in the state, and he had built his career on controlled precision. In the courtroom, juries trusted him because he seemed so reasonable, so measured, so unlike the monsters he defended. Hannah had trusted him once, too. She had believed the flowers and the apologies and the promises that it would never happen again. She had believed him when he said she made him do it, that if she could just be better, try harder, love him the way he deserved, he wouldn't have to correct her. She had believed him for 3 years. She didn't believe him anymore. But belief and escape were different things. I'm sorry, she whispered. It was an accident. He stepped closer. She could smell his cologne now, the one that used to make her feel safe. Last time you said you'd call the police. Remember that. You were going to tell them everything. His hand found her shoulder, gentle as a lover's touch. But you didn't, because you know who I am. You know what I can do. You know no one would believe you. He turned her around to face him. His eyes were empty, not angry, just empty. That was when she knew tonight would be bad. Anger she could survive. But this cold nothing in his gaze, this mechanical detachment, meant he had already decided what he was going to do, and was simply going through the motions. The first blow came without warning. The wine bottle, still in his hand, from when he'd poured himself a glass, connected with her shoulder. She stumbled. Before she could catch herself, his foot found her ribs. Once, twice, 3 times, each impact precise, calculated. He knew exactly where to hit to cause maximum pain without leaving visible marks. He had learned over 3 years exactly how much her body could take. When she finally collapsed, gasping, he straightened his shirt and looked down at her with something that might have been disappointment. "Clean yourself up," he said. "I have a gala. When I get back, we'll talk about what happens next." He picked up his keys. At the door, he paused. "And Hannah? Don't do anything stupid. You know I'll find out." The door clicked shut. The lock engaged from outside. He had installed that lock himself 2 years ago after she had tried to leave the first time, told her it was for security, for her protection. She had believed that, too, for a while. Now she lay on the marble floor, each breath a fresh agony, and listened to his footsteps fade down the hallway. Her phone was still in her pocket. Her sister's number was the only one she trusted. Rachel lived 3 states away, but she would know what to do. She always knew what to do. Hannah's fingers shook as she typed. The screen blurred. The numbers swam. She hit send and let the phone fall from her hand. Then she dragged herself toward the bathroom, the only room with a lock he hadn't replaced. She made it inside, closed the door, pressed her back against the cold tiles, and waited. The reply came 11 minutes later, but it wasn't from Rachel. Hannah stared at the screen, confused. "Who is this? Where are you?" The number was wrong. She had typed it wrong. Of course she had. She couldn't even do this right. She couldn't even ask for help without failing. Her thumb moved to type an apology, to explain the mistake, to tell this stranger to forget the message and go back to their life. But another message appeared before she could. "I don't care. Send me the address." She read the words 3 times. They didn't make sense. Why would a stranger care? Why would anyone? She had learned over 3 years with Ryan that no one cared. That was the lesson he had taught her. That was the truth he had carved into her bones. But her ribs screamed with each breath, and Ryan would be back in hours. And this stranger, whoever they were, was the only person in the world who had asked where she was. She typed the address. Then she typed, "Please hurry. He always comes back." 30 miles away, Wade Hollister looked at the address on his screen and felt his heart stop. The Prescott Building. He knew that building. Everyone in the city knew that building. It was named after the family of one of the most powerful defense attorneys in the state. A man who had made his fortune keeping the worst people out of prison. A man Wade had seen on television 100 times, smiling that smooth smile, explaining why his client deserved another chance. Wade's thumb hovered over the phone. This was insane. He didn't know this woman. He didn't know what was really happening. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe she was crazy. Maybe he was about to drive 30 miles in the middle of the night to get himself arrested for trespassing in a building owned by a man who could destroy his life with a single phone call. But then Penny shifted on his chest, murmuring in her sleep, and Wade looked down at his daughter's face. She looked so much like her grandmother. Same nose, same stubborn chin, same way of scrunching her eyebrows when she dreamed. His mother had died 2 years ago. Heart failure, the doctors said. But Wade knew better. Wade knew exactly what had killed her. He had been 28 when his mother called him at 3 a.m, voice shaking. His father had been drinking again. His father had found the credit card bill. His father had done what he always did when the world didn't arrange itself according to his wishes. Wade had been in another state, at a conference he couldn't miss, building the career he thought mattered more than anything. "Call the police, Mom. I'm busy." Those were the last words he ever spoke to her that night. The next morning, his mother was in the hospital with a shattered cheekbone. She didn't press charges. She never pressed charges. She told the doctors she had fallen down the stairs, and the doctors pretended to believe her, and Wade's father stood by her bedside with flowers and tears and promises that it would never happen again. Wade flew home 2 days later. He stood in his parents' kitchen and screamed at his mother for staying. He screamed at his father for existing. He screamed at himself for not coming when she called. But that scream stayed inside, trapped behind his ribs, where no one could hear it. His mother died 2 years later. His father was in a nursing home now, mind gone, memories scattered like autumn leaves. He would never remember what he had done. But Wade remembered. Wade would remember forever. He looked at the message on his phone. "He broke my ribs. I can't breathe. Please help me." A stranger. A wrong number. Not his problem. He could delete the message and go back to sleep, and tomorrow he would never think about it again. That was the smart thing to do. The safe thing. The thing that would keep him out of trouble, keep him employed, keep him alive to raise his daughter. But his daughter was sleeping on his chest because she had been crying for her mother, a woman who had left 18 months ago and never looked back. And his own mother had called him once, desperate and afraid, and he had told her he was busy. Wade stood up carefully, settling Penny into the couch cushions. She stirred, but didn't wake. He grabbed his jacket from the hook by the door and typed 3 words that felt like jumping off a cliff into darkness. "I'm on my way." Mrs. Patterson lived next door. She was 73, widowed, and had been watching Penny since the divorce. Wade knocked softly, and she answered in her bathrobe, reading glasses still perched on her nose. She didn't ask questions. She never asked questions. She just nodded and shuffled across the hall to sit with Penny, while Wade did whatever Wade needed to do. But tonight, as he turned